So, Macedonian Phalanx. Let's start with formations. As always, we do not want to use the stacked block formation, because as we know, tight formations are easy to flank and easy to disrupt by enemy hero crowd control effects. Instead, we will always use F1 formation, which offers a good but not too big of a spread, which will prevent enemy heroes from disrupting the whole formation. Instead, they will only disable a part of it, while the majority will be performing its function. Unless of course we are fighting in a narrow terrain, which prevents enemy from flanking us. In that case we will use F2 block formation and maximize damage in the center. They also have an immunity mechanic to the first hit, which is indicated by the blue color bar above the health. It starts to recharge after 30 seconds out of combat, and it can block even crowd control effects like hero ultimate abilities. Now about the damage in the center. Even though F1 formation is kinda spread, therefore the damage is also spread across the area, during moments where enemies are really concentrated and are only on one side of your formation, you can press V and unlock Pike Rotation. Like that, all the models will be able to deal damage instead of the half, because models will be able to rotate towards the nearest enemies. Which brings me to another thing about V, and that is instant brace combo. If you brace by pressing 1, they will perform brace animation. But if you combine brace ability and then press V, the pikes will go down instantly and be ready to perform the brace effects. Now when it comes to bracing, you need to pay a lot of attention to distance control, which we will manage by our second stage of first ability, that allows us to move forwards and backwards, to the direction that the unit is facing. Because of the special trait that the unit has, the brace also applies crowd control. And using the advance order will not cancel the brace effect and all the effects that comes with it, including dealing damage. However, do keep in mind that this does not add more damage, so please don't use them like Imperial Pikes and just ram into enemies with your face. That is the worst thing you can do while controlling this unit. As well as using advance order will make them march infinitely. In order to stop that, you need to reactivate the ability or press V. Maintaining safe distance is what allows us to safely perform our damage dealing ability, Ares Flurry, which forcefully makes us overextend forward into closer melee range. This also cancels brace status throughout its duration, but provides a lot of damage in return. This is another important reason why we need to pay a lot of attention to distance control. Therefore, after this ability, most of the times, we will want to advance backwards to not be in range with enemy units. But that is optional. Now let's talk about the build of the unit. The recommendation would be to go bottom Veterancy, and the argument for that is very simple. A unit that performs good at everything across the board during all types of scenarios is better than a unit that is great at only one thing. Meaning going top will make you great only at occasional burst spikes. That being said, both vet lines are viable choices depending on your playstyle. For the Doctrines there is many things we can do, so I will recommend a few builds and you can choose the one that suits you the best or try something else yourself. But keep in mind that if you go bottom vet line, which I highly recommend, the foundation will always be the same. First build, brace and ability damage plus anti-cav. Second, brace and ability damage plus overall survivability. It has a very nice synergy with Veterancy damage reduction node while bracing versus everything, plus other nodes and traits that decrease damage taken from cavalry, which becomes a total of 20% reduction from infantry and 65% reduction from cavalry. And third, brace and ability damage plus charge doctrine. Small note about the anti-cav choice. Unless you're really new to the game and get flanked by cavalry all the time, despite the fact that you can brace them instantly to any direction of your choice, or just let pikes rotate freely, fast by pressing V, it is simply a waste of Doctrine spot to further enhance the unit versus cavalry, and that is because the unit itself with bottom Veterancy line is more than enough to deal with any cav instantly. Which finally leads to unit control explanation. There are 4 engagement scenarios: engagement and reach control, full engagement and distance control, defense and disengagement or regrouping, and lone hero engagement and regrouping. Let's start with engagement and reach control. While attacking, you will be following your front line, instant bracing at a safe distance if enemies have long pikemen as well, and then advancing forward. Once you are in range, you stop the advance by pressing V. If your team is able to push through, you follow them while advancing forward, and then again stop the advance with V once you are in reach of enemy units. If your team is losing the push and you are being pushed out, you advance backwards to maintain your distance from enemies to avoid getting hit while still dealing damage in return. In real battle it will look like this: I brace in safe distance, advance forward to make contact, press V to stop because I see Wooly trying to get to my side, wait for pikes to rotate, and advance back to maintain distance. Then start advancing forward to make contact again. Little support with my hero, need to be careful not to get stabbed, stop again so the pikes can turn towards the enemies, and continue to make contact. From here on, the idea is to always be in reach, yet not too close so you wouldn't get hit with the smallest delay possible during commands. Because the longer you take to adjust your distance, the easier your enemies can adapt to your range. Full engagement is similar, but with another level of complexity on top. We follow the front line, brace in safe distance, press V to skip animation, advance further until we reach the enemies. Once in reach, we stop by pressing V and follow up with second ability that forces us to overextend, therefore we immediately advance backwards to regain safe distance. And continue to follow our front line if we push forward. In real battle it will look like this: I come closer to the engagement area, instant brace, advance forward, munch on some cav, then once I'm in reach I press V, follow up with second ability, advance backwards a little to not be too close, and then after this it's all about distance control, where the goal is to not overextend, so you would not be wrecked alone, as well as to not retreat too far away from your allies, so that they would not be alone. At some point here we all fake a huge retreat, they take the bait, so we all re-engage and destroy their disorganized formation. Since my unit is spread too much, I find the perfect opportunity to reform my formation, but unluckily I get hit by a mortar. Then we continue to push forward with everyone. I readjust my distance a bit, reform again, rebrace, and follow the rest. And perform another full engagement combo. Now then, defense is pretty much the same but from another perspective. Here we will mostly focus on advancing backwards to prevent enemies from reaching us, especially if our front line will be broken through, and it will look like this. We brace, wait for impact, perhaps readjust the distance if enemies after charge are too close, press V, perform our second ability that forces us to move forward, and immediately start advancing backwards to maintain or regain safe distance between you and your enemies, and hit V again once you are far enough. During combat your unit might get dispersed forcefully because of enemy units or hero crowd control effects. Therefore, while advancing backwards we need to look for opportunities to regroup the unit back to its original formation for maximum effectiveness. by pressing X on a chosen location and rebracing them to continue the battle. With frontline it will look like this. Instant brace, adjust my distance since I'm too close, press V, follow up with second ability and advance back again to regain my distance. Little later push forward to be in reach with enemies. Repeat my second ability and pull back again, but at that point the fight is already over. In real battle without frontline it will look like this. I instant brace, then I start immediately advancing backwards, so that the enemies don't reach me. Once I create enough distance I press V, perform second ability and immediately advance backwards to regain distance that I lost with second ability. Once I pull back enough I stop by pressing V, and continue readjusting my reach until the end of the brawl. After I regroup my unit to prepare for another encounter, where I meet another enemy unit and perform another instant brace. Now then, lone hero engagement is pretty simple. You need to judge if it's safe enough to exit formation. For example, maybe a hero is diving your unit to disrupt the formation while his unit is still far away. Or simply overextending. Therefore, you quickly press X and V, and most of the times they will melt the nearest target with basic attacks. In case the hero is still alive, you must regroup as quickly as possible and enter brace even if you take on some losses or if the formation is not regrouped perfectly, in case of incoming enemy units. For example here, I quickly XV to melt down this hero and then rebrace my unit for an upcoming encounter. Here I will show you how not to do it. In this case I had the charge doctrine that was not enough to kill an Adachi, so I quickly XV him to death instead and rebrace instantly in fear of enemy units. And then start advancing towards the enemies. Which is a terrible idea because the unit is not grouped up. Remember that grouping up the unit is super important because dispersed models are way less effective. From here on, it's only additional gameplay footage, but hopefully can deepen your understanding about the unit and show some more scenarios where I share my experiences. For example, here I wanted to show you that having a good reaction time can be very rewarding because the unit executes commands instantly without animation delay. Like the instant brace that you saw here, and second ability that can be stopped in the middle by pressing V, which I did because I needed to go back to brace status because of the cavalry. Here you can see how important it is to regroup fast and instant brace. And here again, because one fight leads to another. Here you can see just a simply nice team push where we set up midpoint. I slowly use full engagement combo. Then we whittle them down behind shields and slowly push up. Here some more instant bracing versus cavalry, some distance control to not let Reapers hit me, basically the defensive scenario combo and some more small fights.
Set push them.
So don't you become in? Oh, they gotta watch you, shit.
It's harvest
Here is another semi-defensive scenario where I keep maintaining my distance from Reapers, which eventually kills them.
Someone help it. Chase, let him fight.
And some
Just kill him.
anti-cav action where I didn't even have a nicely grouped formation, yet the enemy cavalry was still devastated with barely any losses. Here you will see some footage that I already used as an example, but there was a lot more that happened even outside of unit control. This one was more about general gameplay and decision making. Here we are pushing enemies that are overextending, as well as exploiting the fact that only a few players are grouped up very close to the front line, which means we can deal with them until their main force arrives. And then when they will, it will be weaker. Think about it as destroying a smaller concentration of troops on the flank and then rotating to reinforce the center, or just preventing two forces from merging, therefore making the upcoming threat less significant. Here we are exploiting the same thing again, and we can do that because the front line is far from the recovery point. But unlike before, we need to be fast because this area is trappable, so after the combat we run immediately. And now we have the last stand for the flag, where I use simple engagement combo most of the time and end it with a second ability since I needed more block break. Thanks for watching, hope it helped.